My name is Sarah Mitchell. I am 32 years old, a single mom living paycheck to paycheck on waitress tips in a small town where everyone knows your business and judges it twice as hard. I want to tell you a story about my son, Jamie, about ice skates and broken rings and nights that smelled like bleach, about a family that tried to clip his wings before he even learned he had them, and about what happens when a mother refuses to let that happen. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in mid-October. The neighborhood park pond had finally frozen solid, the kind of perfect gray ice that looks like polished steel under a cloudy sky. Jamie was 6 years old that autumn. Wild brown curls that never stayed flat no matter how much I combed them. A gap where his 2 front teeth used to be. A laugh that could fill a parking lot. He grabbed my hand that afternoon and pulled me toward the ice before I even had my scarf properly tied. 3 teenage girls were skating near the center of the pond. Pink dress, lavender dress, silver dress. They moved like they were part of the ice itself, spinning and gliding and laughing with their hair streaming behind them. Jamie stopped walking. His mouth fell open. He squeezed my hand so hard I felt my knuckles shift. His whole body went still, the way children go, still when something reaches into them and grabs hold of something real. "Mommy," he whispered, "I want to do that." Not shouted, whispered, like it was a secret he was telling only to me. I looked down at him, at those huge brown eyes reflecting the gray ice and the spinning girls and something I could not name. "That looks hard, baby," I said. "You'd fall a lot." He turned to look at me with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Completely serious. More serious than any 6-year-old should be able to look. "I don't care," he said. "Mommy, I don't care if I fall 1,000 times. I want to do that more than anything." More than birthday cake, he told me. More than Disneyland. More than pizza and ice cream combined. More than staying up late on Fridays. More than the new video game he had been asking about for 3 months. Every 6-year-old comparison he could think of, stacked up like an offering. I felt something shift in my chest. Not a decision exactly. More like a recognition. Something locking into place. This was real. This mattered. "Okay," I told him. "We'll find a real rink." His face. I wish I could keep his face from that moment in a jar on my windowsill. Pure sunrise. That Saturday, I scraped together 2 days of tips, $23.47, and drove us 45 minutes to the county ice center. The car heater barely worked. Jamie sat in the back seat with his face pressed to the cold window the entire drive, fogging the glass with his breath. Public skate was $8 each. I had exactly $19 left after gas. I paid. Jamie clutched the rental skate bag like it was treasure he had discovered buried in our backyard. The skates were battered black rentals 2 sizes too big, laces dragging on the rubber floor mat. He didn't notice. He walked to the ice entrance with his chin up like he already knew he belonged there. He wobbled badly those first few steps, grabbed the boards, grabbed my hands, nearly pulled us both down twice. The older kids flew past him and he watched them with hungry eyes, not afraid, just hungry. Then something happened that I still think about every single day. He pushed off, 3 shaky strides, and then he glided. Just for a moment, maybe 2 seconds, but he glided. He turned back to look at me with a face I will never forget for the rest of my life. Pure, uncontained joy. Like he had discovered something about himself that he had always suspected, but never been able to prove until this exact moment, on this exact patch of scratched county ice. "Mommy," he breathed, "I'm flying." He fell 47 times that afternoon. I counted every single one. He got up 48. Each time he hit the ice, he laughed. Not polite laughing, delighted laughing. like falling was the funniest thing that had ever happened to him, and he could not wait for it to happen again. Halfway through our session, a woman appeared at the boards beside me. Silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, piercing blue eyes that seemed to be running calculations behind them at all times. The kind of stillness that comes from decades of absolute physical discipline. Her name was Elena Petrova. I did not know that yet. I only knew she was watching Jamie with an intensity that made me stand up straighter. She had been observing him for nearly 20 minutes without my noticing, standing far enough away to see the full picture without interfering. She skated over with the kind of effortless movement that made everything else around her look clumsy and touched my arm lightly. "Your son," she said, in an accent as crisp and precise as the ice itself. "He has something that cannot be taught. Real balance lives here." She touched her own sternum. "And here." Her temple. "You can see it already at 6 years old. I have one spot remaining in my pre-juvenile group. Monday morning, 7 o'clock. Do not waste this." I found out later she was Elena Petrova, former Soviet junior Olympian, bronze medalist at the 1987 Europeans, coach of 3 regional champions in the past decade. She had turned down 12 students that season already. She had chosen my son in 20 minutes on a public skate afternoon. $180 a month for group lessons, plus $20 gas each way 3 times a week, plus skates because the rentals were unacceptable. My rent was $900. My waitress shifts brought in around $1,400 on a good month, less on slow ones. After groceries and utilities and Jamie's school supplies and the one prescription I could not skip, there was not much left. There was actually almost nothing left. But I looked at my son dragging himself back upright for the 48th time, laughing instead of crying, reaching for the ice instead of the wall, and I said yes without hesitating. I called my mother that night, still buzzing with it. She let me get through exactly 1 sentence before she laughed. Not a warm laugh, the sharp kind, the one that had always made me feel approximately 9 years old and wrong about everything. "Figure skating," she said, "for a boy. Sarah, that is for prissy little girls in sequin dresses twirling for their daddies. If he wants to skate, put him in hockey like every normal boy in this town." I tried to explain. I tried to find the words to describe his face. The way he said, "I'm flying," like it was the most obvious true thing anyone had ever said. She cut me off before I finished the second sentence. "You are going to make him a target, bullied, teased, destroyed. Do you understand what boys in this town do to boys who figure skate? What would his father say if he could see this?" Jamie's father. My high school sweetheart, the man who used to dance badly in our kitchen on Sunday mornings and call it his best skill. He died when Jamie was 18 months old. Undiagnosed hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. He collapsed on the factory floor on a Wednesday morning in March, still wearing his lunch in a bag he had packed himself the night before, and was gone before the ambulance arrived. He was 28 years old. My mother had always known exactly how to use that grief. She kept it sharpened like a tool and took it out whenever she needed a door open. I hung up without saying anything else. I sat at the kitchen table in the quiet for a long time. Jamie was already asleep, the rental skates tucked under his pillow, the way other kids kept stuffed animals. At 5 a.m, he climbed into my bed with cold feet and whispered directly into my ear, "When do we go back, Mommy? Can we go today?" I kissed his tangled curls. "Monday, baby. Mommy promises." The first real lesson I paid cash, money I had saved by skipping my own lunches for an entire week, eating crackers and peanut butter at the back of the restaurant when the manager was not looking. Jamie wore the rental skates again, dull blades, wrong fit, flopping around his ankles. He fell 47 times again, as if paying back some kind of toll to the ice. Elena watched with those steady blue eyes and said afterward, very calmly, "He needs his own skates. The rentals are actively working against him." So I started hunting. Facebook Marketplace at 3 in the morning when Jamie was asleep and I was supposed to be sleeping too. Pawn shops on my lunch breaks, garage sales on weekends with Jamie in tow, both of us scanning folding tables and cardboard boxes with equal focus. I found them on a Sunday in a suburb 40 minutes north. White Rydell leather skates, size 12, barely scuffed, blue laces still threaded through clean. The woman selling them said her daughter had quit after 2 months. $45. I talked her to $40. She threw in the blade guards. A seamstress 2 blocks from our apartment stitched Jamie in careful blue thread on the tongue of each boot. She refused payment because her own grandson was in Elena's Saturday group. When Jamie put those skates on for lesson 2, he was transformed. He stood differently, walked differently, arrived at the ice entrance differently. He fell 20 times that session instead of 47. And at the very end, in the last 3 minutes before Elena blew her whistle, he attempted a baby camel spin. 1.5 rotations, deeply crooked. He crashed sideways into the boards with a sound like a small explosion and came up grinning so wide it looked like his face might split. Elena clapped both hands together once, hard. The glass panels rattled. "This boy competes soon," she told me, looking at him and not at me. "Mark every word I say." I drove home floating. Jamie fell asleep in the back seat, still wearing his skates with the guards on, one boot propped against the window, snoring softly. I watched him in the rear view mirror at every red light. Something enormous was happening, and I could feel the shape of it, even if I could not yet see the whole thing. My mother came to lesson 3 uninvited. I did not know she was coming. I did not find out she was there until Jamie spotted her from the ice mid-drill and began waving both arms above his head with the full-body enthusiasm that only very small children can produce, spraying a fan of ice shavings in a wide arc around him. I turned to look where he was waving. She was standing at the glass wall, with her arms folded across her chest and her lips pressed into the expression I had grown up interpreting as profound disappointment in whoever she was looking at. She did not wave back. She did not smile. She watched him like she was a judge, and he was evidence. After the session, she cornered me in the lobby while Jamie sat on a bench slowly unlacing his skates, watching us from across the rubber mat with big, careful eyes. "You are wasting money," she said quietly enough that he could not hear. "Money you do not have. On figure skating. On a boy." "He is happy," I said. My hands were shaking inside my coat pockets where she could not see them. "Your father played hockey," she said. "Your grandfather played hockey. The men in this family play real sports." Then she walked to Jamie before I could say anything and knelt down in front of him with a smile that did not reach anywhere near her eyes. "Sweetie," she said, in the voice she used when she was certain she was being reasonable, "Grandma is going to buy you real skates, hockey skates, and a real stick. All the boys at your school do hockey. Real boys do hockey. Wouldn't that be more fun?" Jamie looked from her face to my face to the ice behind the glass where 3 other kids from his group were still practicing. I watched his face while he worked through it. That brightness, that particular flying joy that had lived in him since the pond, it flickered, like a candle in a draught. He pulled his lower lip between his teeth the way he did when he was trying hard to figure something out. "I like this, Grandma," he said finally. His voice was so small it barely carried across the lobby. She stood up and brushed off her coat as though she had touched something that left a residue. "Your choice," she said to me and not to him. "But don't come to me crying when the boys at school start in on him." Then she left through the glass doors without looking back. I did not move until her car pulled out of the parking lot. That night, Jamie cried himself to sleep, not dramatically, just quietly, steadily, lying on his side, with his white skates pressed against his chest, like a life preserver. I sat in the open doorway of his room and watched the rise and fall of his breathing until it evened out into sleep. Then I sat there a while longer, making promises out loud to the dark hallway. I will find the money. I will make this work. I will not let them reach into him and pull out the light. I will not. I sold my grandmother's pearl brooch on eBay for $62. It had a small chip on one side that I disclosed honestly in the listing, and it still sold in 4 hours. I remember holding it one last time before I packaged it, feeling the familiar weight of it. She had worn it every Sunday of her life until the arthritis made it too hard to pin. Then I put it in a padded envelope and drove it to the post office and did not let myself feel anything about it until I was back in the car with the door closed. When Jamie's second month of lessons came due at the same time as his first competition entry fee, I did the math at the kitchen table at midnight and came up short by $60. I sat there for a long time. Then I took off my wedding ring and put it on the table in front of me and looked at it for a while. It was a thin gold band with a small round diamond, nothing expensive, bought by a 23-year-old factory worker who had saved for 8 months. I drove to the pawn shop the next morning. The clerk looked at the ring, looked at me and said, "You sure about this, ma'am? Best I can do is $120 cash." I said yes without hesitating. I drove home with $120 in my wallet and a finger that felt wrong, too light, like a word with a letter missing. At every red light, I looked at it. By the time I pulled into our parking lot, I had stopped looking. I walked inside, and Jamie was on the kitchen floor, in his dinosaur pajamas, doing spins on the linoleum in his socks, and I sat down on the floor right next to him and watched and felt something inside me go perfectly quiet and calm. The first competition came 2 months later. Local juvenile division, held 40 minutes away. At a rink with a cracked lobby ceiling and folding chairs. Jamie wore a costume Elena had found at a consignment shop. Dark blue with silver trim, 2 sizes slightly large, pinned in 3 places at the back. He warmed up with the expression of a person taking a very important exam. Fell twice in the warm-up. Got up both times faster than the fall. He placed 3rd. Bronze medal, too large for his small neck. It slid down past his collar when he bowed. He stood on the podium with both hands wrapped around it to hold it up and looked out at me in the stands with an expression I have never found words for. Then he spotted me specifically in the crowd and his whole face broke open and he pointed directly at me with both hands and mouthed, "Mommy!" He ran across the parking lot afterward, medal bouncing, still in his skates with the guards on, and crashed into me hard enough that I stumbled backward into a parked station wagon. "Mommy, we did it! Mommy, we did it!" He was crying and laughing simultaneously, which I had not known was a thing a person could do until I watched my son do it in a cold parking lot in November. I held him there against the station wagon with cold wind coming off the fields until neither of us had anything left. My mother called that night. "3rd place," she said, which means 2 children were better. Hockey boys finished first. Then she hung up. By month 6, Elena asked me to come to her office. It was a small room off the Zamboni Bay that smelled of rubber and old coffee. She closed the door. "Nationals are possible," she said, folding her hands on the desk. "Junior division. He has the technical foundation. He has the instinct. But I need him on privates twice a week now. That is $320 per month." She looked at me directly, not unkindly. "I know what I am asking." The rent was 3 weeks overdue. The electric company had sent a yellow notice. I had been moving a small credit card balance around to keep it under the limit. I said yes. I drove home and applied online for the night cleaning position at the Riverside Mall, 11 at night to 4 in the morning, 6 days a week. The interview was a phone call. They asked if I could lift 40 pounds and operate a floor buffer. I said yes to both, the second one being optimistic. I started the following Monday. Those months I ran on 3 hours of sleep and waitress coffee and the absolute refusal to stop. I came home at 4:15 in the morning, smelling so strongly of industrial bleach that Jamie started calling it my work perfume without knowing what perfume meant. I slept until 7, got him up and fed and to school, went to my waitress shift, picked him up, drove to the rink, drove home, ate whatever was fastest, went back to the mall, over and over. Some days I lost track of which part of the rotation I was in and had to look at my clothes to figure out where I was supposed to be going. I found Jamie on the kitchen floor at 4 in the morning twice during those months. The first time he was asleep there, practice clearly abandoned mid-spin, curled against the base of the refrigerator with a dish towel pulled over his shoulder. The second time he was still awake, cereal bowl gone soggy beside him, working out a footwork sequence in his head with his eyes closed, lips moving. He heard me come in and looked up and said with complete seriousness, "I don't want to waste your money, Mom. I think about it every time I go on the ice. I want to be worth it." I sat down on the kitchen floor beside him, pulled him into my lap, even though he was getting too big for that, arms and legs going everywhere. "Listen to me," I said. "You are my gold medal. You are my first place every single day, with or without the skating. You understand me? The money is just money. You are not the money. You are everything else." He rested his chin on my arm and looked up at me for a long moment. "Okay," he said. Then he picked up his cereal spoon and ate the soggy remains, and we sat on the kitchen floor together at 4:30 in the morning, not saying anything else, and it was one of the best moments of my life. Sectionals came in month 8. The top 4 finishers would advance to nationals. I drove to the rink that morning in darkness with Jamie asleep in the passenger seat, his competition bag on his lap, a crease from the window pressed into his cheek. He woke up when I turned into the parking lot, looked around, said, "Oh," and became a completely different person. Focused, quiet, checking his laces 3 times. He placed 4th out of 19. His costume had 2 small tears in it from falls during the warm-up that Elena had sewn closed with a needle and thread she kept in her coaching bag, specifically for this purpose. He skated his long program with the 2nd tier reopening halfway through the step sequence, and he did not look down once. He crossed the final pose with a smile the size of the entire arena. The local paper ran a photograph of him on the podium under the headline, "6-year-old skating sensation takes 4th at sectionals." My mother called the next morning. "You are destroying yourself and your child over a hobby," she said. "Normal boys do not do this." I said I would call her later and did not. Nationals were held in Raleigh, North Carolina, the 2nd week of December. Hotel was $189 a night. Flights were $420 round trip. I had been saving since sectionals, every dollar I could pull loose from bills and groceries and gas. I maxed 1 credit card and put 2 nights of the hotel on a second one. Jamie never asked about money once during the whole process. Never asked why we ate sandwiches from a cooler in the hotel room instead of the restaurant downstairs. Never asked why I wore the same sweater 4 days in a row. He was focused on one thing only, and the simplicity of it was a gift I did not have words for. The morning of the short program, he threw up in the hotel bathroom. He was fully dressed in his costume, laces tied, guards on, hair combed, and then he was on the tile floor holding the toilet, and I was beside him with my hand on his back, and the only thing I could think to say was, "You belong here." Every single thing we built together, every morning on that kitchen floor, every fall you got up from, every night I mopped those floors, it is all in you right now, and it goes onto that ice with you today. He nodded, wiped his mouth on the back of his hand, and stood up. Checked his laces, looked in the mirror, said, "Okay." He skated the short program clean, 5th after the first day. The long program the next morning, he doubled his planned triple attempt and 2-footed the landing on the double salchow, but held everything else together with a focus that made Elena grip my arm hard enough to leave a mark. He finished 4th overall, 4th in the country in his age division, junior national qualifier for the following season. I did not cry in the arena. I saved it for the hotel bathroom later, sitting on the edge of the tub with the shower running so Jamie would not hear, crying hard and fast and completely, the way you can only cry when something you fought for with everything you had finally becomes real. We came home to a family dinner at my mother's house. She had invited everyone, all of it, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, the full gathering. I think she expected we would come in quietly. Jamie walked through the front door in his official junior nationals competitor jacket with the medal hanging against his chest, and the room went absolutely silent. He stood there in the doorway with his chin up, exactly the way he had stood at the ice entrance the very first day, like he already knew he belonged. My mother said, "Very nice, Jamie," in a voice that was trying harder than it was succeeding. My brother Mike said, "So when does real life start? School, friends, or tights and sequins forever?" Laughter moved around the table, the comfortable laughter of people who have decided something together without discussing it. Jamie looked at his plate. His knuckles were white around his fork. I watched the brightness in him flicker the way it had flickered in that lobby when he was 6, and his grandmother knelt in front of him with a smile that did not reach her eyes. I stood up. The room went quiet again. I connected my phone to the television using the cable that was already plugged in behind the entertainment center, the one my mother used for holiday slideshow presentations. "Sarah, what do you think you are doing?" she said. It was not a question. "Showing everyone something," I said. Photo 1. Jamie on his very first day on the ice. Fallen flat, laughing, already reaching to get back up. Photo 15. His first ribbon, a red second place from a local club competition. Too large, pinned sideways to his costume by Elena, while he stood with both fists raised above his head. Photo 31. Jamie on the kitchen floor at 4 a.m, asleep against the refrigerator, dish towel pulled over his shoulder. Photo 47. The national scoreboard with his name, Jamie Mitchell, listed 4th in the junior division. The words Junior National Qualifier printed beside it. Photo 48. The pawn shop counter with my wedding ring on the scratched glass surface, my hand still in the frame at the edge. Photo 49. My name badge from the mall. Sarah. Night crew. Photo 50. Jamie asleep in the hotel room the night before nationals, curled around his skate bag, his competition jacket still on, one lace trailing onto the floor. I stood in front of 50 people, and I said, "This is what it cost. Every single photo, every night, every dollar, every piece of everything I sold, and every hour I spent at that mall instead of sleeping." My voice was steadier than I had expected it to be. Your normal would have ended him. This is ours. Jamie pushed back his chair. He stood on it, slowly, the way he approached difficult moves on ice, with intention and without hurry. He lifted the medal above his head until the chandelier light caught it. The room was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator hum from the kitchen. "Mommy sold her ring," he said. His voice was clear and even. He was 7 years old. "She works nights so I can skate. She never one single time told me to stop or quit, or said it was too hard or too expensive or not worth it." He climbed down from the chair and walked around the table and wrapped both arms around my waist and pressed his face into my side. "Best mom in the whole entire world," he said, muffled against my sweater. We left before dessert. In the car on the way home, Jamie was quiet for a long time, watching the dark highway through the window. Then he asked, "Do you think they understand now, Mommy?" I kept my hands at 10 and 2 and my eyes on the road. "Maybe," I said. "I don't know. But you understand, and that has always been enough." 2 weeks later, a card arrived in the mail, my mother's handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a check for $500. The memo line said simply, "For skating. No note, no apology, no explanation." I held it for a long time at the kitchen table. Then I deposited it and did not call her. My brother Mike texted 3 days after the dinner. He had never texted me first in his adult life. It said only, "He was incredible up there. Didn't know." Jamie is 8 years old now. He placed second at Junior Worlds last month. Second in the world for his age division. The Olympic Development Committee reached out to Elena through official channels. An ESPN writer mentioned him in a feature about young American figure skating talent. He still wakes up at 5 in the morning, still does his sock spins on the kitchen linoleum before breakfast, the floor worn smooth now in a rough circle near the refrigerator. Still asks me every single morning with exactly the same urgency he had at 5 years old on that icy Tuesday in October. "Skating today?" And every single morning I give him the same answer. "Always, baby. Always." My wedding ring finger is still bare. I notice it at strange moments. Washing dishes, holding a pen, driving in the dark after a mall shift, watching the lines of the highway come at me through the windshield. Some nights I look at it before I turn off the bedside light. That small absence, that specific emptiness. But then I hear Jamie in the next room shifting in his sleep, dreaming whatever it is that flying children dream on the nights between competitions. And the bare finger settles into feeling like exactly what it is. A trade. A perfect, voluntary, complete trade that I would make again tomorrow and every tomorrow after that. Some mothers hand their sons video games and fishing poles and careful, predictable, ordinary lives. I handed mine this guy. I would do it again. Every fall, every night shift, every meal I did not eat, every piece of jewelry in a padded envelope, every hour on a buffing machine at midnight, every single empty-fingered morning. All of it. Every time. Without hesitation, without question, without end. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If this story moved you, if any part of it felt true, please smash that like button and subscribe. Drop your location in the comments. I want to know where you are watching from. And if you have a child who is flying towards something the world has told them they cannot reach, tell them what Sarah told Jamie on a kitchen floor at 4 in the morning. You are my gold medal. Every single day. With or without the skating.